Of Indiana County, WCCS 101.1 FM and AM 1160. We're glad you're with us here today. Our conversation with Lucy Spelman, brought to you by Marcus and Mack, a law firm representing injured people. And we talk with Lucy because she's the force here behind the Animal Encyclopedia from National Geographic. It's so good to speak with you. Good morning.
Good morning. I love that, the force. How fun.
You are the force, the National Geographic force. Hey, Animal Encyclopedia, I'm looking through this thing. It is so much fun. The photography, of course, we always expect we're going to see spectacular photography. But boy, what subject matter, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. And, the photos really drove a lot of the design of the book. And I think, I think that's one reason it's so fun for kids, because they just start with the image and then they go from there.
Yeah, they absolutely do. And one of the great things about the book, I think, for me anyway, is if I'm a kid and I'm opening up a book like this, I'm attracted by the photography, but I really want to know, okay, what can I learn from this book and how? And you actually tell us in the book how to use the book, not only the table of contents, but there's an actual how to use this book section, and that's so helpful for kids.
Yes, thank you for pointing that out, because I think that's really the book is what it's trying to do, is sort of organize the big groupings of animals, right? So mammals, birds, reptiles, fishes, amphibians, invertebrates, and then, how are animals organized so that if, kids might know about a lion or tiger as a big cat, but they might not know that there are smaller cats. And so it kind of gives kids a way to start exploring the world and realizing that there's so much more than maybe they know, and as you said, I think it's also pretty fun for the parent or the adult there as well, because it's really jam packed, and it's the very back of the book has also a whole lot more information that includes kind of the latest on the conservation status of the animal. So it gives you a chance to talk about how animals are doing in the wild, but there's also plenty of information that's just how cool animals are, and I think I really think it strikes a nice balance, as a book for kids that way.
I don't think I would go far off base by saying that you first became interested in animals because of the fact that you were a kid and you thought they were cool.
Exactly. I've never changed. I really, I think when I was young, I had this sense that I wanted to care for animals, and most people who become zoo and wildlife veterinarians, we're just wired that way. And I think for me, as I went through my career, and including becoming a National Geographic explorer for my work with mountain gorillas, that, those of us who are fortunate to get close to animals and work with them, we really also have an opportunity, especially this book is a great example, to share what we know in as many ways that we can. And I think that's where the photography and the writing, kind of comes together to share more about the animal world, especially for kids who either can't go out or they don't live in a part of the world where some of these creatures are. So I think it's a great way for kids to also explore the world.
And I think through the National Geographic Animal Encyclopedia, kids are going to learn not only about the animals, but how they can become very active participants in the preservation of these animals.
Yes, I think sometimes we forget how much we don't know, right? We still have a lot to learn. And humans are also an animal. So as our needs are met, we have to also pay attention to the needs of the animals. And so just understanding the basic biology of the animal, how it breeds and what it needs to eat, how much space it needs, those are the first steps, and then getting involved in saying, I want to help cheetahs or gaboon vipers or, whatever the animal would be. So it is sort of a kind of a nice mix of, I think, of like inspiration and information and in a way that lets the kids figure out what they want to find out more about.
Yeah, and I'm assuming as well that the conservation of these animals, kids will get a real idea here about preservation of habitat, about how very, very delicate the balance of nature is.
Well, yes, how delicate and also how interconnected, right? So all these animals need specific habitats. Their different features are because they live in different habitats. So sort of appreciating the differences and the otherness of other parts of the world and how we need to preserve, as you say, protect those other, the different places that, maybe we don't live in a savanna, but that doesn't mean that isn't a place that should be protected. And the way I think of it is outside all of our doors are habitats that animals can live in. And so if all of us around the world can take make the effort to help, we can strike that balance. But it's complicated. And so the book is kind of a step in the direction of what are the things you need to know in order to get involved. Yeah, I think it's a great first step in that direction.
Lucy Spelman is our guest. The National Geographic Animal Encyclopedia is our topic as we and we think about this in a kid's context, but it's so much fun for adults as well. For instance, one of my favorite sections is the section Newly Discovered Creatures. Lucy, I'm thinking, we know all the animals. We've got pictures of them all. That's not really the case, is it?
No, and that's the whole thing about discovery is the more we look, the more we find either new species or species that we thought were variations of the same, and then either the actual field study of the animal or the genetics tell us that they're actually different species. And that's critical because that's how we also monitor how we're doing and how our biodiversity levels are, how a given habitat is doing. And I think, understanding that species change over time, they do, they naturally go extinct, they naturally appear, but our impact, human activities are changing the pace at which we lose species. So it's always great to have new animals discovered and to remember that, change is always happening. And our role, part of it is to understand that change and then do the best we can to kind of, limit human impact so that the animals have a space to be, on the earth along with us.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm interested in the construct of the book and the actual way it was formatted. And we know that it takes a whole team of people from National Geographic to put it together. So if you could spend some time just talking about gathering that team together and then the work that they did to make this into such a, not only a beautiful book, but such a beneficial book.
Yes, well, I think there's endless people to thank for their contribution because for my part, to do the animal entries, I was looking at research papers and publications and talking with other experts who I know. So I drew on all kinds of, everybody who's studied animals. In a way, their work is represented here in terms of the information. I think in terms of the photography, of course, that's National Geographic being able to draw on their skills and the many people they collaborate with. And then the actual children's book or the kids' book division, having this sense for design and how to design the pages. And so, I'd say the page design and what can fit on the page and how the photos can be placed to be really striking, that was really a key piece. And so I would look at the layout once there was a sense of what animals went on a page, after they were, I did sort of the grouping like we talked about, mammals, birds, et cetera, and then the pages within them, so, all of the animals that eat, that are in the anteater group, for example. Mm. And then I would look at the pages with the photo layout, and then I would get to think about, okay, is that animal, I've had that as a patient, or I've seen that animal in the wild, and I could write my piece in a way that I tried to make more personal than just, a list of facts. And I think the team, and then there are lots of fact checkers and people reviewing the book. And so, yeah, a team effort. Probably we couldn't even count everybody that was involved. And again, it's just such an honor to be the person who got to kind of put down the writing all in one place and just start sharing it.
Just a moment left here this morning with Dr. Lucy Spelman, the National Geographic Animal Encyclopedia. Of course, the proof is in the kids who actually read it. So I'm assuming that you bring together a group of kids. You say, take a look at this and tell me what you think. Do you do that review process with the kids themselves?
Well, I don't personally, but, this is our second edition. And the first edition, I still get letters from, it's 10 years old now, I still get letters from kids, pictures. They've drawn images of a page in the book they like. They point out something about an animal that, that they found out. So I do think it's inspiring, not just young readers, but, young scientists and just animal lovers, of all ages. So, yeah, I think I'm expecting it to be, just as popular as our first edition. And, with all the up-to-date information, it's going to be great to share it.
Yeah, and it's going to be available, of course, at all of the usual suspects, Amazon and Barnes & Noble and those various different sites, bookstores around. It's out right now, isn't it?
It is. It's available everywhere, and, it eventually will be in libraries, so it's a book that should be accessible, and, and I think it's a book really for all ages, right? It's a kid's book, but I think anybody you give it to will have fun with it.
Everybody's going to love it. Dr. Lucy Spelman, thanks again so much for being with us here today. National Geographic, you can check up on them online and check out the Animal Encyclopedia. Appreciate your time this morning.
Thank you. It was really fun to be here.
Have a great day. And it is the voice of Indiana County, WCCS.